What happens when a 54-year-old brand with a cult following decides to franchise fast, and the CEO realizes the thing that made it magic might not survive the growth? This episode, Barry Bagels CEO Jim Nusbaum pulls up a chair in the original Toledo location and asks us the question live: how do I scale without losing what made us great? Our first Dear Frannie guest of the season. Let's go. Welcome to Dear Frannie, the franchise advice column. I'm your host, Catherine LeBlanc. And along with my co host, James Vetrano, we've spent our careers inside growing franchise systems. From marketing to operations, we break down real questions and real challenges and share the kind of answers you only get from experience. Let's jump in. Welcome to Dear Frannie. I'm your host, Catherine.
And I'm our lucky co-host, James.
Hey, James. Today, we are really excited to welcome a guest onto our show. Jim Nusbaum joins us from Barry's Bagels. Hey, Jim, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me. Doing well.
Good. Okay, we're going to put you right into the fire. And our first segment that we always do is called This or That. So I'm going to read an option to you, and you're going to decide which way will you go. So when a franchisee finds something that works better than the playbook, do you let them run with it or bring them back in line? So Jim, we're going to put you on the spot to go first.
All right. Well, thanks for putting me on the spot and a really great question. We actually, I'm going to go with the let them run with it with a kind of a booster, which is this. We actually encourage innovation on the franchisee levels. One of the things I think, we've been around for 54 years. And one of the traps I think organizations can fall into is to sort of say, this is the way we've always done it. And I think one of the benefits of having franchisees is that they're bringing a fresh eye to certain things, whether it's a process or an item or a marketing or something like that. So not only as long as it's on brand and fits our culture and those type of things, that's a prereq. Not only will I let them run with it, we'll co-opt it and use it for the rest of the brand. I think this idea of bringing them in line starts with a presumption that everything the franchisor is doing is right or correct. And I think that's a dangerous place to be on certain
Mhm.
things. I think you have to be a good listener, and I think you have to be open minded. And I do think that franchisors in particular are kind of in the eye of the hurricane when it comes to their brands and have tunnel vision. And I
Mm,
think, having franchisees who are new and creative, and bring a fresh perspective is valuable. And it's really the job of the franchisor to embrace it and, sort of let them run with it. Again, with the prereq that it's on brand, it fits culturally, it's repeatable and scalable. I
mhm,
can't make like creme brulee in the line, you know what I
mhm,
mean?
mhm,
So, as long as it fits operationally and culturally, all those things,
mhm.
I go for this. I don't know if that's this or that, but that's what I'm going for what I said. I'm not sure if
Okay.
I said qualifies, but
No,
I'm
yeah.
letting them run with it.
So James,
Well,
what say you?
in the infamous words of Naughty by Nature, you can get with this or you can get with that. And I'm going to get with this
It's
on
true.
Jim Nussbaum. And I just got a prop for us, right? It's one of my favorite quotes. I sent it to you guys. Have it in my phone all the time, right? And it says, most dangerous phrase in the language is we've always done it this way. And that's the benefit of franchising, right? The benefit of franchising is you learn from true operators. And I do agree completely. Like, we can't be rolling out hot dogs and chicken wings and berry bagels, but as long as we keep the mantra of what the brand identity is, let franchisees go and learn from it, right? And see what regional things play. You never know if, in a certain market, there's a desire for this or that, pun intended, on the bagel, right? Or as a part of the brand. So I think franchisors need to, up to a certain point, allow franchisees to kind of test and play. But then just back to our other conversations, there's got to be a process associated with them communicating
Mhm.
with the franchisor, and the franchisor has to put that process in place to enable it. So I think Jay
Mhm.
Nussbaum just crushed it on this. What say you, marketing genius?
Well,
All
hold
Yeah.
right,
on
let's go,
one
Nuss.
second. I do want to, I'm not going to rebut myself, but I am going to, I think James brought up a really good point that I left out, which is kind of prior knowledge and consultation. And so here's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to try something. We want to know about it first. I'll give you a real quick example. About 5 years ago, during Christmas season, somebody thought it'd be really great to put green and red sprinkles on our plain bagel and just bake them off and serve them. Now, I didn't know about
Right.
it. And I found out via social media when they were posted. And so I had a lot of questions, right? From customers, where do I get those? From franchisees, am I supposed to be serving those? From management, like who told them they could do that? And so, how does it taste? Bagels are good, sprinkles are good. It probably tasted pretty good. But I do think his point about this sort of prior, and it's part of the relationship. And that's what I tell people. Look, it's a partnership. We try to be consultative and collaborative. Works both ways. So don't go, if you get in front of me, that's an issue, I would
Well,
say.
and Jim, you raised
Well,
a really great point. Let me transition to marketing with this. So, in a previous life with the bagel company, we had franchisees that decided it would be great to do some marketing with bagels as an Olympic rings. And the way I found about it is a cease and desist letter from the IOC, right? So, to the marketing person, that's where I think that franchisees run, but you need to communicate. What say you, marketing goddess?
yeah, so I'm going to take that position on this and say do not let your franchisees run with anything and everything in the field. And look, I think that you guys make great points, and like any this or that, we're going to come to some compromise. But my position is you have a franchise, you have a system, you have a playbook that works. And to support that playbook requires consistency, it requires training, it requires marketing support. And when you have a franchisee go rogue or try something new, all of those support mechanisms aren't yet in place. And so now you have a franchisee that's running with this new thing. It's working great for them in their mind because they're excited about it. But when you look at the numbers, it's actually not driving any incremental revenue. But now they're getting all of their franchisee friends excited about the possibility of sprinkle bagels. And now you have to pivot and support a brand new program that's not driving incremental value that you weren't planning on doing to begin with. And so that's the danger that can happen when you let your franchisees run and take the stage. Now, that's my that. We can
Spoken like a
compromise. I
marketing
think
person.
that
Spoken like a marketing person has to deal with
No
headaches.
doubt.
spoken
No
like a
doubt.
person who has had to clean up messes.
There you go.
But we can compromise. I think that both of you guys caveated kind of your position around, do we have a process? Have you told me what you're going to try? Have I already vetted that this can fit within our operational standards? And have I, if this goes well, do I know where it's going to fit in my eventual rollout process? I think the compromise is in that communication and then opening up that franchisee communication in a way that helps you stay ahead of things.
Right. So the answer is probably somewhere between get them back in line and going rogue. Okay. Those are two ends of the continuum.
Exactly.
And I think we're all sort of saying around the same thing, which is, innovation, and creativity, all those things are good. But, you make the fair points about systems and support and all that. And I think that, again, if you boil down what we're saying, they're probably closer together than further apart, I would say.
Absolutely. Well, and then the danger though, to your point, the danger of not letting your franchisees experiment and push the needle is that innovation loss, right? Because the best ideas do come from the field. They are not coming from the test kitchen. We can sit in a boardroom all day long and discuss and brainstorm and whatnot. The best ideas come from the people that are actually working in the stores, communicating with your guests on a day-to-day basis. And so you do have to find the balance of how are you going to encourage that along with, making sure it works within your system?
Sure.
And
Agreed.
Okay.
Nussbaum's sitting in the best boardroom right now, which is the restaurant I got.
Sitting right in the store. You can probably hear it in here. All
Okay.
right.
So, Jim, let's transition into our Dear Franny question. Because we have a guest this episode, we're going to have a live and on the spot Dear Franny question for James and I. So, tell us what you got for us today.
So I guess my question is, again, we've been around for a long time, and in very recent years, our franchise development has really accelerated. And my question is, how do we accomplish expansion while maintaining all of the culture, systems, quality that have made us successful to date?
Yeah.
And so that is as we go from local to regional and beyond, what are the best practices or what should we emphasize for us to continue on that path?
Jim, before we jump in, let's anchor a little bit. So, tell me, so Barry's
Sure.
Bagels is based where?
It is based in Toledo, Ohio. Have you ever been here?
I have not been to Toledo. No.
All right. Well, standing invitation for both of you. I'm sitting in our original restaurant, opened in 1972. And we now have a total, we're about to open our 23rd location. We have either open or under development, a total of 109 locations in 7 states. And so we bake our bagels fresh all throughout the day. And, so that's what it's made. They don't have preservatives, serve very high quality meats and cheeses. And, our experience, both from a food quality perspective and kind of customer visit perspective, we think is exceptional. So our goal is to, recreate those experiences and the quality in every time we open and
Mhm.
throughout Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, South Carolina, Iowa, Texas. And that's the challenge that sort of I think about, is how do I take the experience where I'm sitting
Yeah.
and translate it to Louisville, Kentucky, or Columbia, South Carolina. And so, yeah, that's kind of the real life
Yeah.
of my job.
Yes. Well, and James, before I have all my opinions, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think you'll crush this one, Catherine. I think from my standpoint, it's something I can really empathize with from Jim's perspective. And I think it's sort of two or three things. One, maintaining authenticity. Two, ensuring you understand your identity of the brand to the consumer and the franchisee. And then three, quality franchisee, right, Jim? Like you just want to bring, so I'll start with the last one, bring the right people in, right? Like bring the right people in that you connect with, grasp what you're doing, and appreciate Barry Bagels for what Barry Bagels is and maybe can be, not what it should be. I think identity to the customer is important on your continued growth of staying true to what's made you successful, not chasing any fads and ensuring quality of product.
Mhm.
And then I think three is, authenticity. So it is who you are. And that doesn't mean remain stagnant, but it doesn't mean chasing things that aren't part of the core. And so, that's three big numbers that have a lot of things under it, right? So I think you need like a good franchise ops person that ensures that everybody understands how things work. You need a good marketing person that's aligned with what the brand is. And I think the communication with the franchisee has to be significant, um, especially out of the gate. And then as you move into different regions, just sitting somebody in those stores, bringing Barry's culture and to that store and that person. And I think that really is part of the franchise training program. So I could, you know, those are Roman numeral one, twos, and threes that have A through double Z and a variety of programs. But you know,
Yeah.
and growing smartly is important, right? Like you got wonderful numbers both from a profitability standpoint as well as a greenfield standpoint. But like, we don't have to grow fast and we don't have to chase every deal. It's right
Mhm.
people, right places, right offering, and continually just working that plan until the P&L shows we got some things we need to work on before we start predicting P&L problems. That's my highlight. Would you say you, Catherine?
Yeah, I think you hit on the themes, but it's, how do we do that, right? So how do we make sure, and to Jim's question, how do you make sure the culture of what made your original location special and primed for growth continues so that that growth can continue. And I think that there would be, I always say two things that I would focus on. One is standards, right? So James and I talk a lot about standards. Standards is how you are going to communicate culture. It's not a feeling. Culture cannot be a feeling. It cannot be all held by Jim. It's got to be held by everyone that touches the brand, both consumer and franchisee. And so, how are you creating standards that communicate culture? And in your headquarters, that's going to be your core values, your shared beliefs that you're how you're going to operate and treat your franchisees. In the consumer standpoint, it's going to be in the touch points that you are delivering to the consumer. So what are your standards of the product? You bake it fresh. You have high quality meats. You're not doing preservatives. Those are precious sacred cows that you cannot compromise on. What are some other things that you will not compromise on as far as the product delivery? And then think about that customer experience. What are the non-negotiables on the customer experience? Do you greet them when you come in with welcome to Barry's Bagels? What is the culture moment that you are creating for the customer that's going to be true across every single franchise to make sure that it is executable by every single franchise, right? Not everyone is going to be able to hire the guy who grew up with berries in their neighborhood and has a special connection to it and really wants to carry on the whatever makes berries special. And so it has to be repeatable and intentional around how are you delivering that culture to the customer. And then the second piece that I think is the most underappreciated, overlooked piece of franchising is franchisee engagement. How are you intentionally going to drive franchisee engagement again and again and again? And this, you have your tools, you have your phone calls, you have your webinars, you have your newsletters, you have your content. But how are you creating a culture within Barry's headquarters that is going to ensure that franchisee engagement stays high? Once you lose franchisee engagement, it is the hardest thing to recoup. And that to me is where you start to see brand standards slip because they are not as bought in on what is the vision for berries. So, Jim, we've
Hey,
thrown a lot at you.
yeah, let me jump in
Kind
real
of
quick.
saying the
It's like,
same thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
like, what are you dealing with right now, Jim? Like right now, what's pressing relative to franchisee engagement and or any other issue?
Yeah, I think we're small enough that at least on the engagement side, we're pretty good. I mean, I talk to them often. I have newsletters, as you said. We have quarterly meetings about performance and opportunities, and so again, now I see that as an ongoing challenge as we get bigger. But we're small enough now that that piece is pretty good. To me, it's construction management, right? As we build out stores and training as our folks are further away and those kind of things. I think the problems or challenges that you identified are going to be present, and they're always present at some level, but will be sort of higher on the radar as we get bigger. But right now it's contractors in different areas. It's really sort of the blocking and tackling of opening new locations, I would say.
Yeah, and I would, what from my experience, you are about to enter one of the hardest stages of franchising, going from 25 to 50. And I would liken it to going from 2 kids to 3 kids, right? 2 kids, you got a man on man defense, 3 kids, you go to zone.
That's why I stopped it too.
Yes, yeah, me too. But James can tell us all about the zone
Not
defense.
me.
Um, this is what happens. When you 25, you can have a call every quarter with everybody. 25, they can pick up the cell phone and call Jim and say, how am I going to make this and what am I going to do? Once you hit to 30, 40, 50, the infrastructure on how am I supporting these folks and how am I transitioning the first 25 into the support structure that we're now developing is very difficult. And um, I think that the biggest tip I would have for somebody in your stage is to ensure that your training programs are where they need to be. Franchising is a training business. We are here to, and I loved the Jersey Mike's founder kind of says this perfectly around the franchisor is not a sandwich place. The franchisor is training the people on how to be a sandwich place. He says it much better. But that is where, if that is in place, then the layers that you have, the construction, the opening, because those are all different, right? You're going to have unique issues with every single opening. But if you have the standard training in place, you can rest easy that they're going to know how to deliver the Barry's Bagels experience. And that to me is the biggest thing that's missing when we go from 25 to 50. We don't have that infrastructure in place to really support it. James, what do you think is
I,
the biggest
I, well,
challenge?
I think he's running into a wonderful opportunity that's going to, you know, be a blessing of a challenge, right? And I think Jim understands that. It's just building those processes in place without G&A creeping up too much and profitability dropping. But I do think on the construction side, it'd be interesting to see if you are able to enable technology to help you monitor what's going on, right? Either like on-site cameras, drone inspections, like that kind of stuff that exists in other like industrial manufacturing worlds that, prevent you from having to get in the car or fly or trust the general contractor's update. And then, the other services that exist relative to assisting franchisees with local zoning and permitting and all that kind of stuff. Because depending on the city you're in, the queues that you'll run into, there's a large coffee franchise out of our area that's the biggest issue. They just can't get sold anything, right? So, utilizing technology and appropriate services to help those franchisees in the different marketplaces, be it expediters or whatnot, are always really interesting, alternatives to expense associated with travel and or waiting on somebody to help you. I do think the construction management queue and the process associated with site location all the way to opening, that outline is something people have to manage and lean into with the franchisee. It's hard. It's really hard. But there are things out there that I think can enable you, and offline, happy to talk about that. The second thing I have to roll out, just randomly, is uh, on the identity side of Barry Bagels. One of the things that really interests me is my mother's an English teacher, and my wife is a retired lawyer, law review. We're not editor, but on law review. And you, as a lawyer, Jim, would appreciate this. The lack of the apostrophe S.
Recovering lawyer. Please
Yeah,
get it
yeah, there
right.
you go. There you go.
Recovering
Right,
lawyer.
there you go. Right. The lack, as a lawyer who's trying to figure out how to recover, is the lack of an
Yeah.
apostrophe. The apostrophe S intrigues the hell out of me, and I really think
Yeah.
there's something there to play with
Totally
relative to identity.
unintentional.
Yeah. Well, tell a story if you don't mind, real quick, because I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it was the story is real simple. You have a 21-year-old guy in Barry Greenblatt who wants to start a business in 1972, and when he registers the business in the state of Ohio, makes a typo, and here we go. And then everything just goes from Barry Bagels, and
Well,
we
two,
can't unwind it.
two,
So,
two, 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 two
that
things
is
that
that
jump out.
simple.
Two things that jump out to me on that one. One, it saves money for signs. So like it's a cost saver on construction. So I make that a franchise E plus. And then two, like Wendy's Where's the Beef platform in the 80s and 90s, right? Where's the apostrophe S? And I just think as you drive into growth
Uh,
and identity, it'll be really interesting for your franchisees. Anyway, that's my two thoughts.
that's a great call. I love it. I love it.
Thanks. Thanks,
On
James.
the construction management side, I have seen brands outsource this and I've seen brands build teams internally. Both don't feel perfect. I've seen issues with both sides of it. Jim, what are you doing right now? Are you outsourcing? Is it something you're managing in-house?
Well, I would say a little. I suppose a little of both. We have couple people in house who manage what's going outside. We don't have like a team that's building each store, or it's a little. Again, if you ask what's the biggest challenge, I think it's that, especially being geographically expanding.
Mhm.
We don't just send the same contractor here or there or whatever. All of our spots are a little different. They're shaped a little different. Some might be second gen. And so we can't just
Mhm.
drop a CAD drawing somewhere and say, this is what it's going to be. And
Right.
so it's pretty high touch right now. It's a pretty high touch environment. I mean, this morning, before this call, I was going through with a kitchen designer, you know, point by point. Here's where everything goes, and so yeah, it's a pretty high touch environment right now on the construction management side.
And it's something
James,
that's
based on what
lost.
you've seen, yeah,
No, sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
I
Go
want
ahead.
your opinion on
Yeah, like I think the interesting thing that it's lost in this sexy talk of franchising is the block and tackle of operations from franchise sales to opening. And as a guy who has
Mhm,
done 2 to 10, built his own restaurants, like figuring out where outlets go and power sources and voltage is not sexy, but it's something nobody talks about to the prospective franchisee that
mhm,
may have not been in the industry or has not, so having an owner operator like Jim who understands and has built them and has operated them, I think is a great sales point to franchisees. But when you start talking about
mhm,
other larger organizations, it really gets lost in what the pain points can be for the franchisee and the brand. And I do think at Jim's stage, the hand holding and the personal touch is part of the sale, right? And while it may be a pain point for
mhm,
Jim, there's going to be a point in time where he is going to have to hand it off to somebody or build a process about it. But him, having hands on as a franchisee, that makes me interested in putting some money up because I got somebody like of Jim's intelligence and experience helping me. While not ideal for
mhm.
scale, he'll get
Well,
there.
and
That's imperative. Go ahead, Jim.
yeah, and part of it's not just a pain point. I think part of it is, or isn't a pain point. Part of it's on our end, maybe being like we want to make. We're still like we're so small and we're so invested in each store that we want to make sure literally like everything's perfect too. Like,
Mhm.
this sink is where it's supposed to be. This hand dryer is pointing the right way. And again, that's probably an impossible sort of level of interaction as we grow, and we're going to have to spread out a little bit. But I mean, we're in the weeds, very granular on design and, not only, to support the franchisee, of course, but it's obviously, I view the model as being very aligned. The better the franchisee does, better for the brand, the better for us.
Mhm.
And so, it's in everyone's interest. This level of detail may change, at least for me personally. We may have it more outsourced or hire someone to do it. But yeah, we take it on a pretty granular approach.
Well, to James's point, I think that the way I think about it is that the best and highest use of your time? And it sounds like that is where time is being well spent. And so then how are you compensating for the other things that need to get done? And then to James's point, that's where kind of the G&A, how am I hiring around me so that I can get supported in the space that I need to be in. Now, I see your face. I'm gonna
Well, I mean,
I
you know,
really, I think James makes a great point around it being a selling point about how involved you are. And tying it back to franchising engagement, the struggle of opening up and especially a restaurant, any location, because to James's point, you're working with people who typically have not opened up a business before, have not gone through a construction process before, are not going to have to go through it again, right? Unless, of course, we want them to become multi-units and rich and famous. But that process can really sour a franchisee. And then they walk into the first day of their opening soured from a shitty construction process. And so, you are, and it doesn't sound like you're doing this intentionally, but if you kind of reframed it as we are intentionally hand holding you through this very laborious process so that you are set up for success when you open, it is a drop in that engagement satisfaction bucket. And it's a big drop because I've been part of systems where that build out process was painful and it was frustrating, and the franchisee never gets over it. They're still talking about it 2 to 3 to 5 years later. And I'm not exaggerating. And so I do think that it's a good investment of your time, but being intentional about this is why we're investing in here and then building the team around you is something to think about.
agreed. It's good advice.
Awesome. So sweet.
James, I see you're been all over. You got something to add?
Well, no, I think it's just, when you're in Jim's spot where you have a rocket ship, but you got to be careful where you get the fuel from, and fuel's expensive nowadays,
Mm,
literally. There's a fine balance of how much the G&A can take and bring. Like hiring somebody is a tough gamble, right? So, Jim, my question to you, and I guess my last question would be, when, from your perspective, is the right time to hire, given your potential growth, and who or whom would that hire be?
Yeah, I think I'd rather hire too early. I will say, we did that. Historically, we hired a CFO and a chief marketing officer, probably, by any sort of observation, or if we had a consultant before we needed it. And my theory with that was, if I'm going to sell franchises, I'd rather support them from inception than try to bring these folks on later. And so I would say the right time is probably too early. As long as we have a pipeline and we have a development schedule, it's my job and our job collectively to make sure that, we can support those positions on the G&A and the P&L. But more importantly, probably, is that those positions exist to support the franchisees. And so probably my next position would be some sort of operations, field op, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if COO is the right word, or director of operations, but somebody who, his day to day's job owns the stuff inside the four walls of the store, and I think that's coming, I think that would be the next hire. But I think, at least when you're in this business and you have a responsibility to franchisees, hiring early is the right thing to do, even if it causes a little pain, P&L.
Uh,
yeah,
I
I
know
love it.
my.
Okay, let's get to it. All right, so we end every session with our three takeaways, Jim. So James, go for it.
Yeah, I'm going with two things from Jim, one thing from you, Catherine. I think franchise engagement for you, Catherine, is it's imperative, right? Like you're in a relationship business, you got to engage. I love Nussbaum's openness to innovation, which I think is spectacular. With the caveat of communicate and let me know ahead of time and let it fit, right? And then I love his hire early in order to be able to support the franchising. I think that's a really beautiful thing for prospective franchisees, which is like, I'm not shooting from the hip here. I'm willing to take a hit relative to my personal profitability and the company's profitability to ensure we've got the people here to support you. And for people who are putting, a couple $100,000 to $1 million into anything, to hear that from somebody who's in the stores and is an operator and owner, like that makes you feel really good. I think, good job from you too. Three good takeaways. What says you, Jay Nussbaum? What are your three takeaways, buddy?
My takeaways? Yeah, I think, first of all, let me say this. This is not a takeaway, but I appreciate your time and expert opinions and having me on. My takeaways are that there's probably creative ways that I need or should be open to address some of the things that are going to come along with the expansion. I think emphasizing franchisee communication and sort of involvement is always paramount, which, you guys reinforcing is helpful. And I think on the construction management side specifically, there's probably some solutions that, we should investigate. What I love the technology, the remote, the drone, like that stuff is, I haven't really thought of it, I'll be honest. And so that's really got my wheels spinning already. And so it's just, really good sort of philosophical discussions, and or maybe principles, but also some really like kind of detail, hard sort of advice. Not hard, like, difficult, but like, hey, do send a drone in here or whatever. Like some tangible is a better word, sort of advice. And I think that's great.
Awesome. And my takeaways are, from James's top of the episode, find the right franchisees. And so make sure that your vetting process is solid so that you're bringing the right people in. And then similarly, on that kind of succeed first, protecting the build out phase. I think that that's something that I'm taking away from Jim, what you have shared around how are we making sure that the franchisee sentiment is not starting off on a bad foot, or we're protecting that build out phase. And then I also want to echo James's takeaway around hiring early. I do think that you can get behind faster than you're going to get ahead if you don't hire the right people at the right time. And hiring early is a good move to support your franchisees. Well, thank you, Jim, for joining us as our first
Thank you.
here on this season of Dear Frannie. And yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
much appreciated.
yeah, no, it was fun. And if this conversation feels familiar, you are not late. You are right on time. And please share this with someone who might be in your same boat. Thank you again for joining us on Dear Frannie.
Thank you so much.